The opinions expressed on this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Cable 14, its sponsors, or its shareholders, Cogeco Cable, Shaw Cable, and Source Cable Limited.
Hello and welcome to this Monday, December the 19th edition of For the Record. I am your host, Mike Fortune, and today it's all about community employment services. Now, over the past few months, we've had the fine folks from Mohawk College come on in and talk to us about different ways of looking for a job, what you're going through when you lose your job. Well, these fine folks have all the answers. And last month, we talked a lot about the resume, the cover letter, the do's and the don'ts. Well, now that you have all that put together, now you want to do your active job search. And here to talk to us about some of the steps involved with that, it is Samara Bartel. Samara, great to see you again. How are you today?
Good, Mike. How are you?
I am excellent. You all ready for the holidays?
I think so.
Good stuff, good stuff. Now, I know there's a lot of people out there. This is not necessarily the most happiest time of year for them. They're unemployed. They're looking for jobs. What are some of the things they can do on the active side to help gain and find some employment?
There's a few areas, Mike, that we encourage people to really use and tap into when they're looking for work or job seeking. One of which is networking and understanding, the industry, the occupation that you're hoping to get into, looking to get into, or maybe transition to from something completely different. Networking is about understanding, the company, understanding any associations, professional governing bodies, anything that's related to the occupation. It's tapping in, making some new connections, introducing yourself to people in that field, and just helping to understand, what they're about and what they do.
And of course, I guess part of that would also be do some of your own research as well. Go to the internet, go to Facebook, Twitter, whatever it might be. Gather as much information, because really being unemployed is a full-time job. You have to still do your homework, correct?
And that's put really well, Mike. Being unemployed is a full-time job. Right now, employers are using things like the internet, not so much the newspaper anymore, but definitely you're seeing job posting websites. You're seeing opportunities on these job posting sites to post your own resume and cover letter. It's about really understanding through your research and through your networking, where are the jobs right now? Honing in on specific sites for specific types of jobs. We talked about in the cover letter resume segment before about not trying to be everything to everyone, and targeting specific job search sites is very helpful for you to do that. Using the internet to your advantage. So when you go and you set up a profile with a specific site or a company website, they'll actually update your email account when jobs or new postings are put on the account. So it's really important to understand how to do that. And that's, again, one of our services that we offer at Mohawk, is to really help people understand how to best utilize the internet. Traditionally, employers will still post in the classified section, but we are seeing a really big shift towards the internet. And it's really important that you're focusing and you're getting some support around that.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth there regarding classifieds and the newspaper. People are going towards the internet. It's the easiest thing. It's always there, it seems like. So if you have a chance, but if you don't have a computer, I guess you can, spend your 55 cents or whatever it is, go get the Spectator and start looking. Is that correct?
Definitely, Mike. But that, again, one of the things that we offer at both of our locations at Fennel and in Stony Creek is we have free computer service. Because so much of your job search is online, so much of it does require the use of a computer, printing, faxing, things like that. We offer those services free of charge, and we definitely encourage our clients and anybody to come in and to use the services, especially when it pertains to your job search.
So we talked a little bit about networking. We talked a little bit about the internet and using the newspaper. Our third step that we have here is employer research. Why don't you touch on that for us, Samara?
Employer research, Mike, is so important. It's about understanding who's the company, who's the employer, what do they do, what kind of employees do they hire, how do they hire. A lot of people don't understand the process, and that's where people tend to get really frustrated. Well, I've sent the company 10 resumes. I've uploaded 10 different cover letters to their sites, but they don't necessarily understand how that process works for them. Understanding the company, understanding how they hire, how they post their jobs, do they hire internally, and then there's a shift moving people around. Employer research really helps to make you come across obviously informed as the job seeker, but it also helps you to alleviate some frustration around you're not just applying and getting no answers. At least if you apply, you understand how it's going to be or what the next steps are going to look like. But doing the employer research, again, helps you hone in on companies that you truly want to work for and not just throwing your resume at anyone.
And I guess there's also that fine line as well. I know you just kind of threw that number out there. You know, you've sent in 10 resumes, 10 cover letters, but you don't want to be annoying either, because it's almost a little too much, I would assume.
And you're right, Mike. It's about, you know, when we talk about networking, when we talk about internet, when we talk about employer research, understand how they hire. That's the bottom line. And that's where having the support of an employment consultant to help guide you through that process is really useful. Because when you start sending the same resume, the same cover letters for the same positions, and you're not getting any feedback or no bites on your resume, you know there's a disconnect. You know there's something not working for that employer, and that's why you're not getting the calls. So tapping into some supports to understand how you're going about that process, and if you're really hitting your mark with that cover letter resume, is really helpful, and you find that out through your employer research.
I guess it depends on how the classified ad is set up. Send your resume to such and such with code number XYZ. What if you were to, you know, I've always been a hands-on, a face-to-face person. What if you were to take that resume and deliver it right to the company, if you had the means and the availability, to go right into the head office, to the receptionist, and say, who can I give this resume to directly? Is that an option, or should you always follow what the ad says?
We definitely encourage clients to follow what the ad outlines, because the employer has set that out for a specific reason. Walking in and doing what we call a cold call is not necessarily a bad thing, but when you know that they've posted a position, they have a specific way that they want you to apply for the job, we do say, you know, respect the employer's wishes around that. Make sure that you're following, you know, faxing, email. If you drop it off in person, what tends to happen too for a lot of positions is, even if you show up in person, they're going to say, please see our website and, you know, set up a profile, or please see our website and we have our email address there. A lot of people will end up being referred back to the website anyways, but the cold call is not a bad way to do it, but it's important that if you just show up at a company, that you've done your homework. You know, who's the hiring manager? Who's the one that's going to be making the decision? Are they typically in on the day that you plan on going? For an example, people tend to go to a restaurant, show up and offer their resume for maybe a cook or a dishwashing position. Well, the best time to go wouldn't be at 12 o'clock on a lunch hour rush. It's understanding what that employer does and what time they usually might be around or might be busy. So that does take a little bit of work.
Now, we did get to the cold call, and before we get to the clip of the cold call, I just want to go back one step, Samara, to volunteering.
Yes.
Extremely important if you're out of work, if you keep busy, if you keep active, for your own peace of mind, but also, again, going back to networking and making some connections within the community.
Mike, the volunteering component is such a huge one, and it really makes a lot of sense for somebody who's what we call career transitioning. And that is, you know, you've been in one field for a number of years. Well, how the heck do I get into something else? How do I transfer over? How do I highlight to an employer that I'm able to move from one to the other? And volunteering is such a great platform to do that. You have an opportunity to go into an agency, go into an organization, and really highlight what skills you have. And maybe you don't have all the necessary skills, but through volunteer programs, volunteer training, you're able to gain and acquire those. We really highlight and encourage that for people that are career transitioning. It helps on a few levels. It, number one, gives you that experience, but it also helps people to understand, what is the job truly about? Because people tend to make assumptions. You know, would I like this? Or I definitely would be interested in this. And that volunteering obviously is a great way to give back to the community, but it also helps you to understand what is exactly involved. Yeah. We really like it too, because as you mentioned, Mike, when you're unemployed, it's tough to stay motivated. And that volunteer component can be really helpful and really useful for people to keep yourself busy.
Yeah, no, so, you brought up some great points there. And I want to get back to the cold calling, because I know we brought in a little clip here. So here is an example as to how you can go about doing some cold calling. It's coming up right now.
Hi, I'm looking to speak with the manager in charge of hiring.
Okay. So you'd be looking for Rob. He's actually not here right now, but if you come back around 7 o'clock in the morning, that's usually when he gets into the office, so that'd be a better time.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'm just checking his
Yeah, excuse me.
All right.
I'm looking for Rob, the shop manager.
Yeah, that's me. What can I do for you?
Hi, my name's Dan.
Hi, Dan.
I'm looking to get into the truck and coach field. I'm looking for any position to hone my skills with my work with diesel engines, rear differentials, oil changes. I do brake service. You know, anything to get myself in the door.
Oh, really? Well, tell you, we're fully staffed right now. I know we're not hiring, but I can talk to the owner and find out if he's got any plans for expansion, right? Or maybe we're going to have some busy months. I don't know. Right? So, you know, why don't you leave me your resume, and I'll look it over and I'll talk to the owner and see what he has to say.
Okay, sounds great. Here's a copy of my resume. Would it be possible to get a business card so I could contact you in a week or so?
Sure, no problem. Okay,
thank you very much.
All right, you're welcome. You have a good day.
So there we saw a clip of John going in, doing the cold call. One thing I noticed right off the bat, it looked like he was in some sort of a workshop or mechanic area. He kind of dressed for the part. You don't want to go into a mechanic shop wearing a suit and tie, right? Samara?
Well, and Mike, you bring up a good point. Is a big part of cold calling is you are cold. You're walking into an environment that you may be a little bit familiar with. You don't know anybody necessarily, and you're kind of going there hoping somebody's going to give you the time of day. And like you said, you saw a clip there that was of a truck and coach shop. It was a candidate walking in. He's done a little bit of homework, understood the company, what they were about, how many years they were in business, and just offered up to them saying, look, you know, I'm really interested in this field. But he did. He dressed the part. He made sure he didn't need the suit and tie, but he had a clean collared shirt on. He made a point. Initially in the clip, you see him kind of met with, well, I'm sorry the manager's not around, but come back at a better time. And that's something so common that people run into. And when they get that, well, they're not available, come back later, they don't end up going back later. And it's important that you have the follow through with the cold call. It's understanding that when you meet the person, you saw him give him a handshake, you saw him at the end asking for that business card. Even if an employer says, you know, we're not hiring right now, but I'll get back to you. Thank you very much for your time. Getting a card, doing a follow-up, that's all part of cold calling. It's going to an employer saying, this is what I have to offer. I'm willing to learn. I'm really interested in your field. I'm willing to start, you know, entry level and work my way up. That's a really good way to get your foot in the door. We encourage cold calling. It's not necessarily for everyone, but again, through our services at Community Employment Services, we help coach you and guide you along what that process should look like.
So just before we wrap up here, I want to just do a brief wrap-up of the 5 things for you folks out there who are looking for a job. Here are some of the things you should be doing. First thing is to be networking. Make sure you get out there, talk to people, find out what jobs and opportunities are available. Check the internet, go to the newspaper, see what jobs are out there that suit your needs and that you want to be applying for. Research, folks. Research the job, the company that you want to be sending that resume and that cover letter to. Volunteering, get involved, keeps your sanity, gets you out into the community, and you just never know. You might bump into someone that says, hey, I like your style. Why don't we have an interview? And finally, as we just saw John there in the clip, it's all about cold calling. Go out. It's tough to cold call because you're going in, you don't know what to expect. Get the proper information. First impressions are everything. You have about 5 or 10 seconds to make that first impression, and then you just go from there. And like Samara just said, follow up, follow up, follow up, follow up. It is so key. The folks at Mohawk College are here to help you. Samara, I know you're an employment counselor. You're up there. You got a great team up there. Next month, we're going to be doing another show with you fine folks, and we're going to be having some experts, I understand, coming in, and we want them to, what's this? I understand we want them to email any questions that they might have to jobs@mohawkcollege.ca. Samara, can you just hit on that in about 10 seconds or less?
Sure. We have some experts from human resources and recruiting, professional recruiting, and we get a lot of questions, you know, why didn't I get a call back? You know, what do they expect in the interview? We wanted to bring these professionals in to give people the opportunity to ask the questions. When I'm applying to a large organization or a business with a human resources department, what's that process look like?
Right.
You know, what's a professional recruiter looking for? What's their process look like? So any questions you might have pertaining to that, we definitely encourage you, please send them in, and we're going to have the experts address it.
Jobs@mohawkcollege.ca is the email. Send in your questions. I'm Mike Fortune. You've been watching For the Record. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next year in 2012.